Tom Schwartz has a brand new girlfriend that he is bringing around, who he gushed about when I talked to him at the Valley premiere. He's putting her on podcasts and things. He's talking about her freely. And her whole gripe was, she was like, I mean, T-Money and I have such a great time. I mean, if he wasn't on a show and if he didn't have a phone and we were just alone in a forest together, we'd be the perfect couple. Well, yeah, if you're the only two people on earth, you'll be the perfect couple, because guess what? There's nobody else.
Welcome back. Today, we are telling you some of the things we think you will enjoy over the summer, things you should read, watch, listen to. Our next guest is a comedian who really has her fans on the edge of their seats. Her hilarious Bravo breakdowns and her unfiltered takes on her podcast called Juicy Scoop. Juicy Scoop, by the way, is one of the top comedy podcasts in the country on Apple with over 1,000 episodes, 200 million downloads. Please welcome somebody you cannot hold back or hold down, Heather McDonald! I'm looking at just the arc of your career and everything. This podcast, did you see the success of this coming?
No, because I started it 9 years ago, and I was guest on podcasts. I didn't even know how to listen. I just thought, how am I going to get people to know that I'm going to be in their town in Dallas or whatever? Right. And I heard if you have a podcast, at least your podcast listeners might come see you. If you're not on TV or something. Yeah. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, I didn't think this would be the biggest part of my career, but it makes sense because I wrote and produced Chelsea Lately. I love and
well, that's when I fell in love with you. I mean, you were such a bright light on that show. And I love someone, I am cautious about what I say. I admire people who just blurt it out. I picture, though, what you must have been like at age 5 or 7. Or 10.
I was youngest of 5.
Yeah.
And an interesting fact about comedians and comedy writers, because I kind of realized this as I did writers' rooms. A lot of comedians are the youngest of large families, and I'm the youngest of 5. And I think it's because your
parents... So you're fighting for your life.
Yeah, your parents are tired, but you're also being entertained by all these other people, and you see TV that's probably inappropriate because you're watching the older kids.
So how did you think you were going to be a business? I know that at first you thought...
because when I grew up in LA, and people think that nobody grows up in LA, but I did grow up in LA, and I actually bought the house next door to my parents when I got married, and so my kids went to the same Catholic schools as I did in the San Fernando Valley. Wow. And but knowing that, I knew how I was very jaded about the business, the entertainment business. And I'd be like 6 years old, and I'd be like, well, a lot of pilots don't get picked up. Good luck, sugar. And so when I was lucky enough to go to USC, I was like, my parents are paying all this money.
Right.
I can't just be an actress, da-da-da-da. And then after I finished all that, I realized that I did have a talent, and it's not good to do to your creator, God, if you don't use your talent.
I agree. I agree.
So
you had to go for it.
Even though it's a hard thing, you have to go for your talent. Because not everybody is good at what you're good at.
Right.
So find out what you're good at and then really pursue that.
So you're just like, I am really good at making people laugh.
Yeah, I kind of knew I had it, and I was like, I have to do this.
So Keenan Ivory Wayans gave you your first big gig?
Yes. My first real writing job, like Writers Guild job, was Keenan had a late night talk show in the late 90s. And he cared about diversity in the writers' room. So in that case, he was like, I want a young white woman. I want her perspective.
So you were the diversity hire?
Yes. He was like, yes. But it's so important because he was like... it was such a great experience because it was 1997 or 8. Right. And this is my first writing job, and he had about 5 or let's say 6 white guys, 6 black guys, Allison Faust, who's still a friend of mine, and she is the creator of Act Your Age.
Right.
And so she came up to me and she's like, there's not many of us here, meaning women, because we were the only 2 women. Right. And so it was just amazing because he said, I want that perspective. And so then after that show ended, a couple years went by, and I started working on this other project, another movie with him. And then I saw like that there was this Deadline article that said that they had sold a show about 2 white girls, you know, and then FBI agents pretending to be them white chicks. And so I went to them and I go, well, don't you need at least one white chick on the writing staff? So they were like, oh, do you want to work on this? So then I was a contributing writer on White Chicks.
Before you go, though, I got to talk to you about your Bravo fandom.
Yes, yes.
Let's take a look.
Why are there so many divorces when people open their life and they become housewives? Because of this. It's the man ego, the male ego. They are like, sure, honey, go on the show. And then, especially now, with all the social media, somehow they get on it and they start reading the comments. They've never heard negative stuff about them their whole life. Then they start to probably take it out on their wife. And then their wife is like, I don't need you to be a to me. I'm going to BravoCon and people are going to cheer for me like I'm a rock star.
They consider you the Real Housewives consultant.
Yes.
Okay.
I am an expert.
So if someone is jumping into the world, where do you recommend they start?
I think the best franchises are Atlanta.
Yes,
right from the beginning.
I agree.
Because you have Kim Zolciak and Nene and
classic.
And like they don't even look like themselves, and it's like you're like what? But they're so raw because they're not all about social media and their businesses. Also, Beverly Hills, amazing, and New York, the original.
Would you ever join the cast of Beverly Hills?
I prefer, honestly, doing what I do and analyzing it, because one thing that I do in the podcast is even if people don't watch these shows, I'm able to explain it and make it funny so that it really is, it's a reality show, but I take out the aspects and make it relatable, even if you're not watching the show.
So I do a show called Deadline Crime. I take the aspects of it and I break it down.
Yeah.
You take the aspects of the Housewives and makes it
relatable to whatever. Like you either went through it or you know someone who's went through it.
Name me the #1 iconic moment from a reality show, from the Housewives franchise. What's yours?
I would think that it was when Bethany Frankel and Ramona got into it, and Ramona was trying to shame her for like doing some cheesy movie that maybe she showed her boobs or whatever.
Really?
And then she goes, she goes, you know what, Bethany, you were showing it off, and you did some movies that I don't really think that your daughter would appreciate. and then Bethany was like, I can't wear it in this dress, but Bethany just goes, mention it all, and she opens up her legs.
Okay, I'm going to go rewind that one. New York, and that's why it's red hot. Thank you to Heather. You can check out Juicy Scoop live on the road this